Fourth match of today is Amnesiac versus Zalae. And I kind of wonder if Saiyan is one trying to conceal information, very tactic.
No,
tactfully,
he just doesn't want to.
Tactically denying it.
He just want to answer.
Or the second is that he doesn't want to answer for his crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it was a good game played by Saiyan.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're clearly joking. Some people who might be tuning in out of context might think we're being very serious about it.
He did set up for outside of like worst case scenario.
Very well.
Yeah, he did. He still set up for a 2-turn, and when you don't have time to do the math, you might as well set up for pretty much guaranteed 2-turn lethal.
It was an interesting game also played by Race because he did have bombs, but it didn't really come into play. And it almost makes me think, is it better to just bomb at the end? And then and I think that's kind of what he was hoping for, because he was like setting up his minions and then try to like bomb so that he can't draw it early on. Because Saiyan drawing the bombs was actually a good thing.
Just keep tempo and just use bombs at the end. But the thing about Malagos Druid is that it can get a significant amount of tempo with Oasis Surger and Hidden Oasis, War Druid Lodi, things that you can discover from Worthy Expedition.
Well, either way, that's in the past now. We move on to Amnesiac versus Zalae with the Priest Protects and the Druid bans. Amnesiac has a Quest Druid, and that was banned. And then Zalae has Malagos Druid. Amnesiac, the only America's Grandmaster this week to bring Quest Druid.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else just brought Malagos Druid. Now, granted, Quest Malagos Druid, regular Quest Druid, Malagos Druid, they all kind of have a lot of similarities that blend in between the deck lists. But it's pretty interesting that with Quest Shaman, Combo Priest, that Zalae ends up banning the Quest Druid. What's your take on that, TJ?
Well, he sees the Priest Protect, which means that... Wait a second. That is interesting. How greedy is Amnesiac's Quest Druid? He has King Fiora, Cenarius, and Elise.
I mean, it's good versus the Warrior.
It's good versus the Warrior. It's arguably good versus Shaman.
It's good actually versus Malagos Druid, because if you play Fioras, they have to have like the immediate Malagos swipe or like the double Starfall to clear things.
I mean, I guess you could maybe try and predict the ban from your opponent's side, but how it panned out, I don't think that the Quest Druid ban... Oh, this isn't the deck he's playing game one. They're just showing us.
The
producer
is showing the deck list so that TJ
I could talk about it
can
more
follow
easily.
along with it a little bit more.
So this is the deck that was banned away from Amnesiac. You know, it is pretty greedy. It does have the mind control tech in there. And the Elise, some players opt to go for a much leaner approach, but I think this is pretty standard as far as Quest Druid goes. Nowadays you can throw in Chef Nomi, but I'm not necessarily a fan. You can take out Elise, but Elise can give you a pretty big late game punch, specifically against Warrior. Maybe Zalae just has a lot of respect for Quest Druid. Maybe he didn't expect the Malagos Druid ban from his own side and tried to make his matchups a little bit better.
Well, I think Quest Druid gives the Shaman a little bit more of trouble, because you have a lot more minions that are fighting against the board. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, Quest Druid in general is a really problematic deck for a lot of those board-centric decks, because it's so good at fighting back in the mid-stage of the game. I personally am of the belief that Quest Druid is still favored against Shaman, but if you ask a lot of high-level players, they are split on the opinion. Some say Quest Druid's great against Shaman. Some say Quest Druid sucks against Shaman. And I think that really depends on the deck list. I think it depends on players and their preferences and their own experiences. That being said, Amnesiac's got a little bit of that new tech that we described, the spell word Jeweler, in the Shaman deck, and the Plague of Murlocs. He kind of went pretty heavy into the tech, and as a result, took out an MCT and done some other stuff. So Amnesiac has historically been leading off Shaman against Priest for the past couple of weeks, and it's resulted in him being able to steal a couple of games. And I wonder how that's going to factor in, because both players protected their Priest, and now we start a game with Chicken. Who's going to queue up Priest first game? Who's going to try and beat the Priest? Zalae is opted to try and beat. He's playing Control Warrior. And Amnesiac's opting for the Priest himself. This is exactly what Zalae wanted.
Yeah, it is. He's got the kind of the most anti-priest warrior deck you can have. He has the double weapons project. He has the double plague of wrath. He has the spellbreaker tech thrown in there. Pretty much all of the removal options that give you redundancy against these early priest minions. So I think this was a nice cue for Zalae opening it up. And maybe his plan the whole time was to queue the warrior first, and that's why he bans away the quest druid, because he wanted to give himself the maximum chance to queue a good matchup in game 1. Amnesiac could have just queued Shaman and had a decent stat across the board. He would have either queued into a mirror matchup versus Priest with his kind of anti-Priest tech with the Plague of Murlocs, or the Warrior. So we'd have a mirror, a good matchup, and a okay matchup given his techs.
Well, DJ, I'm of the firm belief that even if you have Plague of Murlocs, even if you have 2 of them against Priest, you're still a pretty heavy underdog. So I think that that's probably what Amnesiac is considering in this spot. He didn't have to first queue Priest and first queue Shaman, and maybe in his mind, queuing Shaman is a little bit too predictable because Amnesiac's been doing it all the time.
Well, Dan, so far in America's Grandmasters Season 2, every Shaman who has put Plague of Murlocs in their deck and drawn and played it against Priest has won.
It's true. It's all true.
It's the truth.
Amnesiac thinking about his Northshire Cleric draw on 1. It walks directly into Weapons Project.
Quickly.
Weapons Project was drawn on turn 1. So it's not exactly you can make a read off the mulligan. Based off this, Light Warden is the best play on turn 1 here.
In the light's name.
It's not an easy turn. A lot of times people would probably autopilot this and just Northshire Cleric. Oh, he has the Weapons Project. I'm so unlucky. Guess I lose. And like now because of this, the game still very much can be determined a couple different ways here.
Would you ever consider using Warpath there instead and concealing the Weapons Project?
Probably not. It gives your opponent something to heal, but I guess that doesn't really matter that much because
They would have to Northshire Cleric coin, heal your Eternium Rover, and then you get a better Weapons Project the next turn.
But then what do you though?
I think so. Your Eternium Rover stays alive.
I guess maybe a better question to ask is, what does Warpath do this on turn 2 that Weapons Project isn't setting up for turn 3? Because Weapons Project allows you to get the weapon out ahead of time so that you can reload it.
True.
You know, for example, like play Acolyte.
Yeah. Just some food for thought, Dan.
No, it's definitely worth a conversation to have. For
I'm
sure.
not saying that I would have 100% Warpath there, but it's something that I looked at and was like, that I'm having a hard time figuring out.
I feel like Warpath gets way better versus the power of Weapons Project stays relatively static throughout the game, in my opinion. It does get a little bit better when you draw Harrison Jones and a few other ways to synergize with it, but for the most part, Warpath just gets really good the more mana crystals you have.
Yeah, it gets really good, but also Priest minions tend to get larger the more mana crystals they have. So sometimes it can be an awkward card to use. But I think I do like the Weapons Project better. Just trying to spur discussion.
Yeah, and I think a discussion here is what kind of card draw sort Zalae wants to play out here. Acolyte of Pain seems good to me. A hold here from Zalae. Now Amnesiac has the option of silencing this, shutting down the card draw, and even pushing through with a little bit extra damage. And I kind of wonder how he wants to go about it with his Northshire Cleric. This looks very appealing to play a Cleric in this spot, but is it the right call?
So So you're going into turn 4. Restless Mummy, if that came down, how would that affect this?
It means that Tolvir is going bye-bye.
It means Tolvir is going bye-bye, but can you protect your Northshire Cleric in a meaningful way?
It looks like it.
You silence Northshire Cleric, heal, bump, heal, and then kill the Acolyte of Pain with the 1/2 in the Weapons Project? Oh, the Tolvir, no need to bump first since the Tolvir was buffed by the Beaming Sidekick, so it's going to be at 6 health regardless.
Zalae does not have an answer to this right now. Oh, the 2 Warpaths. Okay, he needs Shield Slam off this shield block. If he Warpaths twice, smacks the 2/6, goes down to a 2/2, and if you heal it, Zalae still can't get through. Whew, this is tough. Sometimes you can use Warpath preemptively to try to get a good trade, but looks like it's not going to happen here. So they might have to shield block and pray for a shield slam, and it's only a very slim possibility that this happens.
Dinomatic.
I mean, he has a curve. He has Dynamatic, Armageddolo, Ziliax. Just not enough time.
He needs Brawl or Plague of Wrath. That's what he needs.
Ooh. Kind of harmonized their vote with TJ.
Mm-hmm.
Life is enough.
Wow, we're in sync today.
Synergy is on point. We're like a Ninja Tolvir and a Neferset Ritualist.
That's right. Where's our Northshire Cleric?
Yeah, he's sleeping in right now. In the Talaria apartments of Burbank, California.
Telling you. Boys to Men would not have been very successful if one of the members decided to sleep in.
Yeah. Amnesiac could go in with an 8/8 here, just shrink down the amount of armor that's possible for Zalae to use Shield Slam. It is walking into the Brawl turn. I think that's the only point of concern.
Yeah. And Power Word Shield and then follow that up with Divine Spirit Interfire, I think has a lot of appeal.
Might even consider swinging at the weapon because Harrison Jones could come out. But I think in his mind, if his opponent plays Harrison Jones, he's happy.
Yeah.
No Brawl, no Plague of Wrath, no win for Zalae.
Pretty much.
This looks like it's going to be a certain death. Now, that being said, I've seen some Dynamatic Sniperinos.
Are we that desperate?
Don't underestimate how desperate I can be, TJ. Zalae leaning back. Looking jacked, but unfortunately, the result of this game is not measured by your body fat percentage or the width of your bicep. Zalae thinking about his favorite card in Hearthstone, the Northshire Cleric.
I must choose.
Armor up pass.
I mean, he did pick up Tomb Warden, so Armageddolo with Ziliax and Tomb Warden in hand. It's actually some good stuff. He even has triple Warpath on the following turn. Question is he ready for the pain?
No.
I must consider.
20 damage through the injured Tolvir plus the 7 on the board. That's 27 out of the 42 life. That is a 2-turn lethal setup. Amnesiac, of course, cognizant of the fact that if he gets blown out by a brawl,
I must consider.
can he still win? I would argue yes.
Let's say he doesn't do this play and then brawl comes out. Then he's also back to square one. He has Divine Spirit and Inner Fire in hand.
Quickly.
Well,
But Zalae gets more turns to develop.
if he plays Injured Blade Master, that's another minion that Psycho Pop can revive. Also draws him a card, so he's like replacing it instead of going 2 cards down. These are cards that he's okay with drawing now because he'd much rather have them in hand than be drawing them at the top of his deck. Triple Warpath was something that Zalae was hoping to bide his time for. I don't think he deviates from it.
It's tough, though. It still doesn't deal with the pressing issue of these big minions and Amnesiac just drawing cards. It does shut off the draw engine, but he's already gotten a lot of value to that Northshire Cleric.
Right. Is it better to play our Megadillo?
What now?
But then his follow-up with our Megadillo is not that powerful either, because he's not going into the 2 morning turn. Ziliac, sure, it's a 5/4, but it's still not going to answer this massive 12 here that's going on.
Another Divine Spirit ends this game potentially here. Actually, it doesn't potentially, it very much does. Amnesiac first thinking about Psychopomp before anything else, but with 3 minions and only one of them being anything of value. Or 4 minions, rather. Light Warden, Beaming Sidekick, Northshire Cleric, Neferset Ritualist. Those are the 4 minions that have died, and only one, I guess 2 of them. Light Warden is also decent. How much damage is this, by the way? 9, 11, healed a 12,
Hey,
24,
I got you, friend.
30 damage. No, it's more than that, actually. He's got it.
24?
34 damage. That is so close to lethal. And I think Zalae passed way too many turns, has shown that he cannot deal with his 28-28. Zalae, at best, can play Ziliacs and pass. Hope for no way that Amnesiac can get through, but unfortunately, that's not the case here.
You can get through it on board.
Yep. Amnesiac very slowly pincering in and like making the read based off a series of clues that Zalae has laid, but that's it.
Yeah.
Zalae's expressions has been quite the humorous thing to look upon every now and then based off his current situation, but one thing for certain is that Zalae is not having a great week versus Priest.
Not at all. And we know he built his warrior deck to have a good match against Priest, honestly. He was able to fight for the early board well with the Eternium Rover and the Weapons Project. Shut down the Light Warden, you know, have a way to shut down Northshire Cleric should it have been played. But we heard Muzzy in his interview a few weeks ago, might have been last week, talking about the importance of protecting the Northshire Cleric and only playing it when you know you're going to get value out of it against Warrior because of how many ways they have to remove it. And since then, it seems like Priest's win rate against Warrior has gone up, even when they have specific techs against it. Now, Zalae didn't pick up Brawl or Plague of Wrath or Silence, but, you know, would that have mattered? Maybe, but at the end of the day, Amnesiac comes away with the win.
All right, well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to resume this best of 3 between Amnesiac versus Zalae.
Darker
stronger than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how we survive. Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There surely scorching deserts, adventure, monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave, evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save the world.
My name is Paul Nemeth, aka Zalae, and you can find me on Twitter at ZalaeHS, and more importantly, my stream, twitch.tv/ZalaeHS. Tune in, twitch.tv/ZalaeHS. A day in my life, I wake up when I feel like it, then I go to the gym when I feel like it, after that I stream when I feel like it, and then after that, I try and do something productive, and it doesn't always work. My personal goals for this year, I prefer to make short-term goals. So I try to live each day as best I can and make good decisions in the moment. And I don't focus too much on long-term goals because that can be complicated. And I think it's good to keep things simple and focus on what's important in the here and now. You know, it would be pretty cool if I could be first place in the Grandmasters system, but to be completely honest, I don't expect that. Just saying's a little bigger than me. Yeah, second place. That seems like a realistic goal. I could probably finish second place in the Grandmasters program. And I feel like second place it's a nice, comfortable spot for me. I'm into second place.
I'm Will Barton. I'm also Amnesiac, the young savage. I was Amnesia SC for like 3 years. But since I didn't have a microphone when I started playing Hearthstone, everyone was just like, oh, it's Amnesiac. And I was like, no, no, but there was no mic, so I was just like, yes, okay. So I think my experience for Grandmasters was different from a lot of people, because in my mind, there was just never any way I wasn't gonna be in the league. I've been top 5 in points in North America for like 4 years now, or something, 3 or 4 years. I have a big presence online. I think people get excited when I come onto streams and watch them. I'm somebody people can kind of get behind. So in my mind, when they announced Grandmasters, I was like, all right, let's do it. In terms of Hearthstone, I still really think that I have what it takes to be one of, if not the best players in the world. And I really intend to put in more work than I did last year and be more disciplined. I think I got a lot better at using my time over the past year, and I want to apply that skill and show people just how good I can be.
Amnesiac currently up 1-0 as Zalae is going to stay on the Control Warrior, and our Karate Kid villain, Billy, is going to switch to the Shaman, try to chop down those warriors.
Yeah. Someone on our production team showed us a picture of the villain from Karate Kid.
Billy.
Well, as Johnny. Billy's the actor's name, I think.
Yeah. And Amnesiac's real name
is William, which
William,
is Billy.
Which is Billy for sure.
With the bandana, there's a weird, like, striking resemblance, and now I can't unsee it. So Amnesiac is now the villain from the Karate Kid.
Right, which makes Zalae the hero. He needs to come back and punch up.
Zalae is the Karate Kid?
He would be.
Okay.
Just saying.
He has the physique.
He definitely does. Although, I will say that a lot of the times when you see high-level martial arts, those people are like the least suspecting that you would assume to like beat you up. Some people look very normal, but then they've trained their body to hone their shins and their elbows and their joints to really powerful weapons.
I will say, Dan, I have very tough shins. I think I would fall into the category of unsuspecting of being a martial arts master.
Are you challenging me to test the toughness of your shins?
I will say, Dan, that I did take 8 years of Taekwondo.
Did you?
Yeah. I didn't get a black belt. It was 8 years when I was a kid, so the progression was slow. I was a brown belt in Taekwondo.
Interesting.
One step below.
Woo! Woo!
It's,
Our producer
wait, he just
stepped in and said, it's 2 steps below
what's above
the
brown
black belt. Because
No.
TJ's producer apparently is an actual black belt, and he just corrected him.
in Taekwondo?
So it goes brown belt, red belt, black belt. You poser. TJ's a fraud. If there's any Taekwondo experts,
Actually, Mr. Producer, it's 3 steps below. Because there's brown belt, red belt, and then black red belt.
Okay, so I was looking for a Taekwondo expert to cast alongside with Grandmasters Season 3, but I'm also looking for a producer to join us for next year as well.
There's actually some forms of Taekwondo where brown belt is directly below black belt.
Yeah, and like Americanized Taekwondo.
In whatever form of martial art,
We give participation awards just for showing up.
in whatever form of martial art I practiced. Granted, I stopped when I was like 12. I started when I was 5.
So you started with all the 5-year-olds?
There were some older kids in the class, but they were all under the age of 10. Brown belt
You were
was
12 years old?
brown belt was right below black belt, and there was different degrees of brown belt. There was like brown belt one stripe, brown belt 2 stripe, brown belt 3 stripes, and there were black stripes.
Got it. So you
So-
were a brown belt, and you were a 12-year-old kicking 5-year-old kids.
No, but then once you moved up to certain belt progressions, they didn't have enough kids,
TJ.
so you'd spar against people that were older than you.
Were you the
When I was-
Sandstorm Elemental, or were you the Town Criers in this situation?
I think you start sparring at like blue or something, and I was sparring against like 16 to 18-year-old kids when I was 9. And
so you were the one that was...
and I hated it.
You were a prodigy.
And that's eventually why I quit, because I was tired of sparring kids that were beating me up.
Got it.
So, okay, we can move on to the game now. But that was going to be a very short tangent. But I wish that there's like this ominous producer that we talk about. Nobody knows who he is, or
But he's in our ear correcting us.
He's in
And
our
he's
ear
also,
correcting us.
I believe he's also Korean. I would trust a Korean's knowledge that grew up doing Taekwondo and black belt over whatever karate they used to do.
Maybe it wasn't Taekwondo. Maybe it was something else.
So let's break down what we saw in the early game, which was a fairly brilliant sequence on both sides. So Amnesiac plays the quest. Great move. Zalae chooses to respond and get ahead of the evil totem by coining out double Town Crier. Amnesiac responds with the Sandstorm Elemental, anticipating that Zalae, by using the coin, can't really actually punish an evil totem on 3 because he can't coin out Restless Mummy.
What
And then
now?
Zalae just passes, letting him play the evil totem, and then he's going to weapons project it down. Pretty cool sequence, back and forth.
Great summary. So this matchup.
Yes.
What then? I was just going to give a high-level overview of the matchup.
Sure.
Is that all right?
That is, but can you describe it to me using Taekwondo analogies?
No, because I haven't done Taekwondo in like
So
18
Shaman's the blue belt,
18 years it's been.
and Warrior's like the red belt.
And apparently, in those 18 years, I forgot if it was even Taekwondo or not.
What to
Yeah, well, Amnesiac's about to butterfly kick with this weaponized wasp upstairs and scored 3 points.
I can't even tell you if those are that's incorrect or not.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, this matchup in general, I would say that it's Shaman favored, but Warrior can outvalue. It's just really tough. They need a lot of health gain. They need to keep their health total high while not using too many resources to clear the board, because Shaman has so much value generation and resource generation that they can keep making these really awkward boards that can be quite tough to remove. Like even just a board where they play Hero Power, Novice Engineer, Evil Cable Rat, and they get a Faceless Lackey. All of a sudden you have like 5 of these small minions on board, but that chip damage matters, but they also generated more resources than they spent that turn. So it's like, do I use a Warpath for this? You're not trading 1-for-1 in that regard. And then of course they have Shudderwalk to follow it up. They have direct damage with Kobold Lackeys, with Light Drinkers, with Weaponized Wasps. They can copy all those with Barista.
I hope you like my invention.
Box Slasher here on the Novice Engineer.
Yeah.
You belong to
Novice Engineer, really important as a backbone for the basic moves of the Shaman Wando. It's like the punching hand twist, TJ.
Did you look that up?
I did not.
Dan has a list of Taekwondo moves in front of him on his phone.
TJ, focus on the game, please.
I'm just surprised you did that so fast without me noticing. It's like almost like you.
It's like a roundhouse kiss to the face.
It's almost like you have it bookmarked or something. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Of course it's the right way.
It's actually important to get this Questing Explorer down right before the quest finishes, because it was 5 out of 6.
and what move are we going to equate it to this time?
I hope you like my invention.
Okay. It's really vague for a martial arts move. Front kick. It's not very descriptive. Only directional.
Is punching hand twist really the name of the move? That sounds like a name that you make up for in recess when you're trying to like sound cool with your favorite super.
Punching hand twist!
Right before you go for their nipples. Punching hand twist!
I think that's actually the move.
No wonder you didn't get black belt.
Correct.
You got disqualified every time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, producer. He gave me a thumbs up. He confirmed it.
Oh, great. I think he just wants you to punching hand twist his nipples.
I wonder.
I sure hope not.
Amnesiac plays this giggling inventor just to put some roadblocks in, but Zalae, you know, one thing that's kind of interesting is that, hold on, he picks up Tomb Mortar and he has Armegadillo.
That's a big Armegadillo.
Because he also already had Ziliax. I'm thinking that there's a real chance here that Zalae can start fighting back for tempo in this game instead of just reacting. And all of his hand, in terms of the threats, are pretty proactive. And he's got a good balance of it, right? He's got reactive cards like the Shield Slam and Warpath and Shield Slam. Wait, did I say Shield Slam twice?
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
He can Armegadillo into the Ziliax and Tomb Warden over the course of a few turns. One thing's for certain is that we're killing an Oyotron, right? There's no debate about that.
Yep. Ooh.
Double Warpath.
To me.
Valuing card draw.
Yeah, I think it's kind of what you're talking about. He wants to not be out-resourced this game.
Yeah.
Zalae with the spinning back kick. ×2. Lost 2 cards.
We will get through this whole list. So now Amnesiac has not drawn a lot of those big value generators. He hasn't picked up Evil Cable Rat. He hasn't picked up Sludge Slurper. Those are 2 of the big ones because those unlock more ability with potential for Ethereal Lackeys. Amnesiac has made the matchup weaker against Warrior by cutting some, looks like top end. He cut a Mind Control tech for Plague of Murlocs and added a Spell Ward Jeweler, which
Spell with Jeweler doesn't really mean anything, but the Plague
Yeah.
of Murlocs might be really good specifically against the 2 Mordants.
Yeah, Plague of Murlocs actually could be good. And honestly, he just cut a Mind Control tech and an Earth Shock, which is a flexible slot anyway.
Sure.
Which both of those things actually don't do much in the matchup anyway. So he hasn't really sacrificed much in order to make these possibilities. But he does need to find some tools to try and keep this pressure up without using many resources. And no mutate for this Mogu Flesh Shaper, which means he's making it vulnerable. So he's not really doing much on the board. He's giving Zalae a lot of time, and I like the play from Zalae last turn with the card draw. Maybe he recognized that Amnesiac's hand could have been weak on value, and if he stays ahead in card draw from Amnesiac, he can more efficiently answer what he's doing. So
That was an interesting play going into turn 9. Amnesiac had what I felt like to be a fairly straightforward play, right? The Sandstorm Elemental and Life Drinker.
yeah,
I wonder.
I'm curious about that.
Life Trigger to chip off the armor, Sandstorm Elemental to clear the board without using too many resources, and Sandstorm Elemental, a card that's already pretty difficult to get value out of.
So what seems like to me is that I think Amnesiac wants the Sandstorm Elemental and then Barista the Sandstorm Elemental, so that he could have basically Flame Strike and deal with a big board. Because Zalae right now is drawing a lot of cards, and I think in Amnesiac's mind, Zalae is going to eventually start winning back the board because he has just more cards. He's going to invest all these resources and tools into wresting the board away from the Shaman. So by having Sandstorm Elemental and Plague of Murlocs, he should have a decisive answer to it. Like, no matter how big the board gets, Sandstorm Elemental or Plague of Murlocs into Hero Power Sandstorm Elemental should have most of it.
But is this matchup about reacting to what the Warrior's trying to do, or is it about trying to be proactive?
See, that's kind of where I feel like the deviation is really interesting, because I could make an argument in several directions. The first argument that I can make is, well, Shaman just wants to combo the Warrior down, so the more pressure you put on, the better, right? The more Life Drinkers you play, the more you invest into Shutterwalk, so on and so forth. The second argument is like, well, yes, that makes sense, but Amnesiac has Barista. So he's now transitioning into how can I maximize my Barista into the best possible way. And the third thing is that Zalae's not only drawing cards, but he's also not doing anything.
My jaws that bite, my claws that catch.
Whoa.
So this is a Shutterwalk, a basic Shutterwalk. Bounces back the Akali.
That could actually be big, because Akali will summon the second Mogu Flesh Shaper from his deck,
That's big stats.
which would then be an 8/9.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So he used Shutterwalk there because he wasn't happy with his hand and knew that he'd played both Novice Engineers.
Right, so he did draw some pretty valuable cards. Now, with the Sludge Surfers, Evil K-Raz, and Barista, that should be good enough.
Yeah, and also by playing Shutterwalk early, it forces removal out from Zalae, because Zalae can't let the Shutterwalk stick, because if he does, then Amnesiac gets the opportunity to bounce it. And Amnesiac realizing that, one, his hand is poor, so Shutterwalk improves his hand. Two, he has the upside of, if Zalae can't remove this, because he's played Giggling Adventure, so he has a Noratrons to kind of protect it, then all of a sudden he unlocks the ability to bounce it back with Barista, and then re-up on the Shutterwalk later on in the game once he has even more value packed. So, very cool.
Well, one thing's for certain, we want to remove the Shutterwalk, so Shield Slamming that seems appropriate. And I think based off the way the hand's shaped up, I don't mind our Armadillo in this spot, but Zalae again holding on to it, he's sticking to his line. Maybe Amnesiac responds by slowly going into the dipping his toes in the water with like the evil totem.
I'm also curious by these plays from Zalae.
What?
Not playing anything.
Right. I think he's trying to fatigue the Shaman resources, but that's just unlikely, right?
Yeah, and he's taking a lot of chip damage in order to do so. Like, the last turn that he passed without playing anything, he took the damage from all these minions.
Right. I mean, this is a play that I think Amnesiac knows Brawl's going to come out, or Warpath, Plague of Wrath. Ethereal Lackey. Lots of big plays are coming this. Lots of big plays, TJ. There's going to be some double knife hand strike action with a horse riding stance.
What now?
Wait, there's a cat stance?
Never got that far.
Oh.
That must be a
That
must be a
for-
red belt thing.
That was a red belt / black / red belt thing.
Yeah. Never got
You'll
that
get
far.
there one day.
Yeah. I broke some boards.
Did you yell really loud while doing it?
Maybe?
Holding the right stance also gives you more freedom of movement as far as throwing punches and kicks are concerned. The stance is the most elemental factor to take into consideration, and all future lessons depend on your knowledge and how to correct your stance.
Yeah.
Well,
never got
there
that
we go.
far.
That's why, TJ.
Most of my knowledge was memorizing sequences and then performing those and getting a new colored belt.
And gurgling some salt water so you can yell, "Yeah!" really loud. Zalae gonna warpath 5 times to clear here. Seems like he's on the efficient clear path, and once his opponent is done playing stuff, that's when he's gonna drop the Armecadillo. Again, a very unusual deviation from what we usually see. I'm very curious about this.
Amnesiac is going to start to struggle from hand size here.
You're right. It's to the point where he could just feasibly play Goblin Lackey, just build a big board.
Yeah. Sludge Slurper looking for like Kobold and Faceless would be ideal. Just because it builds the biggest board, and Kobold he banks for the Barista.
He just isn't finding the lackeys.
But he can keep doing this. He can just keep building annoying boards that Zalae has to remove, and then...
That was like... he played a few cards, but it was really just kind of one card that he played. 2 cards that he played. Cable Rat and the Life Drinker.
I mean, he ended the turn with the same amount of cards that he started with. Actually, he ended the turn with more cards than he started with.
I wonder.
Before his draw, because he had 9 cards on the draw last turn. And he just built this board essentially out of nothing.
Another possibility that Zalae could be hoping for is to draw Dr. Boom Mad Genius first, and then get all of his cards to start getting value off the rush. Playing a Murlocs here, by the way. Not that great.
I mean, it's okay.
I'm just thinking about it.
He just doesn't kill what's on the opposing side of the board. Most of the time, unless he gets Bluegill Warrior.
Bloodlust could be massive here. Another Plague of Murlocs. I don't think he needs that.
No.
There might be a case to pick up Witch's Brew. Earthen Might. I know Amnesiac a big fan of that tempo. Plus, he's a Divine Shield minion. The Cloak Scale Chemist. 2 mana, 1/2 Stealth Divine Shield minion. What expansion is that one from, TJ?
Little
Still Chemist?
Don't look! He looks.
Can't even tell.
The Boomsday Project. It's a chemist.
Yeah, but that's also a lizard.
You belong to the bomb now.
Good hand management to bounce back. Zalae, how big can these 2 Mordants bring him back into the game? Because right now it's looking like a Shaman combo victory.
Yep. It's very difficult to say, like, if Zalae should have played a more proactive game. Because I don't know if it would have mattered.
I agree. I think that him playing a conventional game probably would have landed around the same spot. So he was taking a risk of trying to see if he can play this game in a very unique way. I think this looks like, to me, still like a Tomb Warden opportunity.
Yeah, maybe he was holding on to those cards for Blastmaster Boom, but I mean, there was a turn where he floated 6 mana. He just didn't play Armageddon with both Tomb Wardens and the Ziliacs in hand. And the Armageddon doesn't benefit from Blastmaster Boom at all, so it's not like he couldn't have gotten that out of the way. I don't know.
Amnesiac did a really good job last turn of freeing up his mana so that way he can still play Bloodlust if he gets it off the Ethereal Lackey, and I think that's what he's going to go for here. Or is it Goblin Lackey, perhaps? Just to start getting use out of these cards in his hand.
Yeah. I think he plays Sludge Slurper. Yeah, you can play Sludge Slurper here, see what you get.
No
Titanic
Cobalt
Faceless.
Lackeys.
Wow.
This is actually kind of amazing here. He's
Yes.
not gotten a single
He's
Cobalt.
got a single one.
He's gotten every other Lackey multiple times. Actually, I think only one Goblin Lackey, but an overwhelming amount of Titanic and Faceless Lackeys. And Ethereal Lackeys.
Bloodlust.
Finds Bloodlust, though. Hugely important card here. Still ending the turn with pretty much the same amount of cards. That Sludge Slurper is a 6/9 taunt.
That'll happen.
Nice.
And this will probably prompt a brawl.
Seems like it. If he had, I think maybe he was also hoping for like Brawl Dynamatic and maybe like
What
decisively
now?
killing off whatever comes out. If the 6/9 survives, he also has Silence.
Amnesiac's hand's starting to look a little bit less appealing if you consider that he's likely to have an empty board after this turn.
It's got Faceless Lackey, Virtual Cable Rat,
Precision.
Sludge Surfer, and then the worst case scenario, the absolute worst, he baristas all those generators back to his team. How much damage is this? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 15 is 23. If there's a way for him to get past that 6/7 taunt. There is not without giving armor and life through the Ziliacs.
What to
Yeah, I
do?
mean, this might look like a Plague of Murloc's turn.
Yeah.
Then he loses a lot of these valuable things like the Ethereal Lackey and the Sludge Slurper if you want to barista it back.
Yeah, but I think he's been holding on this barista because he's been banking on getting
I mean, he still has
Cobalt Lackeys.
he has 4 Lackeys still in the hand that he can generate through the Evil Cable Rat and the Sludge Slurper.
Yeah.
I'm not really sweating it if I'm Amnesiac.
He's got 7 cards remaining. Included in that is Life Drinker, Former Champ, Weaponized Wasp, Spellward Jeweler,
Novice Engineer.
a Novice Engineer, a Mutate.
Finally gets a Cobalt Lackey.
Mortals are so squishy.
Pretty amusing that he evolved.
Oh!
What did he get?
Valakir?
Grom.
Oh, Grom.
Yeah, Zalae has to brawl this for sure.
Yep. Keep in mind, Zalae has a Whirlwind still left in his deck. He's used both Warpaths, but he has a Whirlwind left in his deck to activate these Plague of Rats. And he's been as greedy as he can be with this removal, which you kind of have to be, because you're always going to be faced with a situation where there's a wide board. And he's hoping for no Grom.
Last time Amnesiac played against Zalae, there was an image tweeted out by Amnesiac of him shooting the 3-pointer after he won a brawl with his Northshire cleric that was a 9-13.
Now he
This
does
is when
it
he was
again.
wearing. That was when he was wearing the SpongeBob onesie, by the way.
Yeah. To add insult to injury, if anything. Oh man, that's a brutal outcome for Zalae.
I just don't think Zalae beats Amnesiac in brawls. I just don't think that's what happens here.
It's not possible. Is that what we're saying?
Amnesiac is a really cute play of Kobold Lackey his own 4/9, so he can hit for 6.
Then he can hero power barista. So what can he fit in here? He can. So that's 8 mana right there. He could also fit in Sludge Slurper, but then he's running into hand space issues. He dumps 3 cards. He's at 8, so he'd have 5, and he'd be putting 4 back into hand. But the Sludge Slurper would also generate 2, so he would he could Sludge Slurper first.
Overcomplicated. I say just former champ it up.
What to do?
Yeah, but this Kobold Lackey getting 2 back represents 8 more damage. And he knows that there is another brawl remaining plus Warpaths remaining.
2 Kobold Lackeys. So you can Kobold Lackey this 4/9, hero power, Kobold Lackey face, and then barista it all back.
Yeah, but barista would give 2 Kobold Lackeys, a Sludge Stripper, and then another Sludge Stripper and a Kobold Lackey. So he get 3. He get 3 Kobold Lackeys back, I think.
Still good. Still a lot of damage.
Yep. 12 damage load up next turn, more potentially with Sludge Strippers adding additional. So Zalae needs to clear the board and gain life.
Not looking good. With a loss here, by the way, it looks like we're coming down to the final seconds of this best of 3. Zalae's loss means that he is now tied with PNC for 6th place, which also would mean that he is back in the discussion for relegation.
Yeah.
I wonder.
So the play that I spotted first was Armor Up, then Shield Slam the Barista, Plague of Wrath, Weapons Project.
That belongs in a museum.
Blaze is seeing the rest of his hand. Oh, the Whirlwind. That's right, the one that you mentioned.
That's his last activator for Plague of Wrath, though. And
He's got Dr. Boom, Mad Genius. Is this enough damage?
It is. Bloodlust, Hero Power, Triple Kobold Lackey.
Does he have mana to do that?
Oh, no, he's overloaded. So he just needs Goblin Lackey or Kobold Lackey from either of these Sludge Slurpers. Because right now he's 2 damage off. So you Kobold Lackey once, then Sludge Slurper, look for Goblin or Kobold.
Zalae gonna let Amnesiac have the final say, and Amnesiac getting the Goblin Lackey. That's gonna do it. 4 in a row for the young Savage, from a 1-4 to a 5-4. As he is now firmly within playoff contention, before just on the outskirts of it. Taking down his friend Zalae yet again.
Rough game and rough series, honestly, from Zalae. Lost the favorable in game 1, wasn't able to find removal, and then game 2 gets an unfavorable and some poor outcomes as well. But at the end of the day, you know, Shaman's probably going to get there anyway. Amnesiac had a ton of value in hand, had multiple turns to try and find it. You know, Warrior just doesn't put on the pressure on the backswing, so he had time. He had a lot of time, and takes a 2-0.
All right, let's go ahead and check in with Amnesiac, which seems to be a regular occurrence as of late. Amnesiac, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
All right, so another win here under the belt. So now you're back into the positive record, 5-4. Just talk to me about how you're feeling about this comeback here that you've had mid-season.
I'm not particularly surprised. I was more surprised that I was losing at the beginning than I'm winning now. Like, I tend to win more than I lose.
Me too.
Can't relate. but let's go into the actual games here. Before the series started, it seemed like you and Zalae were bantering a little bit. Coming off of the other win, the beginning of the season, when you beat Zalae in your fantastic SpongeBob onesie. Coming down into this match, was there more at play, or is it just kind of friendly banter back and forth between the two of you?
No, we've just been friends for a long time. There's really no beef there.
Got it. What did you think about the way he played the Warrior versus Shaman matchup? You kind of got a good sense of what his hand was, basically at the end.
Yeah, that matchup's like super unwinnable for Warrior unless they have Dr. Boom on 9. So I basically like I think the only like really interesting thing that I had to do was I just played Shutterwalk on 9, and it was like pretty not juiced, and it was like insane. Like from there, he was never winning. Like I don't think he could have won the game ever, because that Shutterwalk going into his Dr. Boom turn tabled like 13 power, so it was good against that. And then from literally every turn for the rest of the game, I could make a full board and refill my hand, which I did. Like. Barista is so much value that you actually don't need Shutterwalk to really do very much in that matchup. So I just used it to draw basically my lackey cards. And then like you saw at the end, I baristed 2 minions and it's like 30 damage and infinite value. So it's like trying to like super juice your cards in that matchup's kind of dumb. You just have to make sure you're like constantly putting on enough pressure that their Dr. Boom term is weak. Because if they clear your board, obviously all your stuff does battle cry stuff. So it doesn't really matter if they kill it because it already did its thing. But that match was like really good for Shaman, I'm pretty sure.
Got it. You're the only player in Americas this week to bring a Quest Druid. Everyone else chose to be on the Malagos Druid train, including your practice partners, who you're also going to be playing against. Was that a surprise on your end that so few people brought Quest Druid in America specifically?
All right, so I met this girl. And so I didn't have time to learn Malagos Druid. So
so it begins, CJ.
So
the prophecy is coming true.
At least we're being open about it.
3 weeks into college?
Yeah. At least we're being open about it.
I
guess it's not like
loses.
I'm like hurling percent out the window. I mean, it's a good deck. Like I talked to Sayan about it, and he was like, "Yeah, it's fine if not better." And I'm like, "Okay, sweet." But yeah, well,
wait.
That was the drive.
Your opponent this week reassured you that bringing something was okay. I'm not sure.
Well, the funny thing about it is I'm pretty sure just normal Quest Druid's favored in the mirror matchup, which means that maybe he's dropping some percentage points.
That's why I brought it, TJ.
Yeah, there you go.
Both of you
Next
just
level.
shut up.
This seems like a win-win situation for you all across the board.
I hate you two. All right, well, congratulations, Amnesiac. Nice reversal to the season. 5-4, firmly in playoff contention. We'll talk to you hopefully tomorrow when you play against Saiyan on Sunday.
All right, later, guys.